second attempt at this video for this subject matter. I'm going to pull up a few things real quick on my computer. So, anyways, it's been a video I've been wanting to do for a while. Without a shadow of a doubt, my most viewed, aside from a short for a local festival we had here, is my review of Basic Fantasy role-playing game by Chris Garnerman. And it's close to 2,000 views if it hasn't hit that yet. I haven't checked on the views in my studio yet. But there were certain nuances and things and points that I either didn't consider, forgot, or just simply overlooked. So this is my attempt at doing this again. And this video, I realize, probably won't have the same amount of views as that one got. So I'm going to make the attempt to essentially do an update. I wanted to do this earlier, but personal and family matters popped up, so I had to cut it. So this is my second attempt at doing this, and so I probably won't have the interactions I was having earlier tonight, but be that as it may, at least will be on my channel, hopefully by tomorrow after I finish streaming this. So first, a little context. What brought out this video? Why did I do that? Well, there was a particular YouTube channel that is known for covering political issues within the hobby, and they mentioned Chris Garnerman's game as an alternative simply for having something else not provided by a certain specific gaming company. And Chris Garnerman got on there and commented saying basically that this is not the kind of exposure he wanted his game to have. It was not the kind of, he didn't want it to be involved in any kind of drama or anything like that. Now, I'll say this, to wanting something as an alternative because of politics or beliefs or whatever, I believe that's a valid point, but I also think that Chris Garnerman's point was valid too. If I created something and somebody was only championing it because it was the alternative to something else, that would seem like an insult to my labors, because you're saying that mine is just runner up because you didn't like first place. So I understand that too, and I believe that Mr. Garnerman's point is valid as well. Be that as it may, this will have no drama associated with it, and as with the first video, if I suspect anybody is going to cause drama within the comments section of this video, it will be promptly deleted and they will be blocked. There are certain spaces and spheres to have this discussion, and this is not going to be one of them. It is going beyond the scope and the intent of this video to do that discussion. And so I will have that discussion at some other point in the future, but for the time being, we're going to review Basic Fantasy Role-Playing Game as it deserves to be, based on its own merits, because I believe that it is an excellent game and superior to certain other ones. Now, first things first, I'm going to prologue this. Now, back when I first started running this game, I was a little less confident, and so I was trying to be an apologist for this game simply because people would get on there and say things like, oh, there's not a lot of options for this, that, and everything else, and that's because they were really what they were wanting was a more modern system. And so, first things first, if you want to get this game and just use it as a basis to build upon, you can do that for your own system. If you want to get this game and try to add things like feats and skills, I think that's a highly laborious task and it wouldn't be worth it to me. And so I would probably say that this is not the system for you. But be that as it may, if that's how you want to do it, more than welcome to. But the point of this is not for character options and creation and things like that. The point is the adventure, the kind of game that you're going to have with it. And so, with all that out of the way, I'm going to start into the review proper. So, it would be it would be quite unfair to start this review without first talking about what's on the back of the cover, right? So, I have this current version of the game, which is the third edition. Something to understand is that when it says third edition, what it really means is it's the third revision. It's not compared to its first and second editions, it's not a totally different game like what a lot of people would associate with more modern games. So as you can probably tell, mine's a little bit dog eared and a little bit floppy, and some of the little bit of plastic film is starting to come up off the cover and whatnot. So it's been fairly well used. I bring it out in every session I run. So let's read the back. This is a new game with rules like mechanics designed for the kind of gameplay popular in the early days of role playing games. The look and feel is classic, from the races, classes, spells, monsters, and magic items included down to the very typeface and layout chosen. That's correct. Um, the font is, I believe, called Saltine. I actually have it on my computer, and it's the same kind of typeface and font that you'll find in Mulvey and Cook. So, in addition to a lot of the other old games from the 70s and 80s. So, this is old school. Modern game systems are heavy, both in terms of the sheer weight of the books as well as the amount of players and game as well as the amount the players and game master must learn to play them. Here in this one volume are all the rules needed to create and run adventures the old fashioned way. An experienced player can create and equip a character in under 10 minutes, and I would say that's being generous. You could roll one up in less than 5, but be that as it may, yeah, that's true. And even a novice can be ready to play in under half an hour, and that's true too. I've helped guided many new players to this system in character creation, and this is specifically 166 pages, and like you have a bestiary and everything in here, so it's everything you need compared to the more modern systems where you have to buy $350 books just to have everything you need to run a game. So, but anyway, let's continue. Game masters will find that the brief and simple rules for monsters and magic make the job of adventure creation just as easy. Combat can be completed by moderately experienced players with little or no need to stop and look up rules, and that is correct. Generally, I have a lot of the rules at the top of my head. I know I will have a broad idea of what the rules say on a particular thing, even if I don't know it right off the bat. And then after the session, I will look it up because the whole point is to keep the game rolling. And then later on down the road, next time you have a session, you bring that up, say, hey guys, last time we rolled it this way, I was incorrect. So this is going to be how we roll it. Um, don't buy this book. Well, not yet anyway. The Basic Fantasy Role Playing Game rules are available for free on our website, www.basicfantasy.org. There you will also find adventures, alternate rules, and other supplementary materials to enhance your game. Now, if you don't want to print the rules out yourself, please do buy this book and enjoy. And of course, the little sticker, old school, is in session. And you have the Solomoria emblem up front, which is Chris Conran's personal little logo. Um, Something to point out is that the community on basicfantasy.org uh, is constantly working. In fact, they're taking up the Mega Dungeon Challenge of 2023 as a community effort, and I actually threw in. If you must know, I threw in for room 2. So if you want to check that out, I rolled up a few things on the dice whenever I had time, and I put in, and so room 2, that was me. So love it or hate it, I'm the one to blame, or praise or whatever. Uh, but so we'll get to that. But as far as how easy it is to create things currently, I'll show you a little bit of what I'm working with on my little side project here, because I'm creating the Anglovan campaign, and I'm fleshing it out. And just to give you how good of an idea, how simple it is. So here's my little world. This is the it's not detailed. It's just like a player character map, right? Something to hand out to the players, and I will have everything with the more specific distances made later. And then, but of course, I worked on the town map of Galdeth, which is the first starting town that they will work with. This kind of system is very easy to plan and run games for. Um, so now that we've got that going on, just to give you an idea and a clue, I will put this back, and I'm currently working on it, and hopefully that'll be up on the forum soon. But I am going to run it with my personal groups before we do that. So, anyways, let's get back to the books. So, first things first, when you open up the book, you'll see immediately dedication to Gary Gygax, Dave Arneson, Tom Moldvay, David Cook, and Steve Marsh. And to my daughter Taylor, my first and best inspiration. So a little bit of a personal thing for Mr. Garnerman, and of course, paying tribute to the guys who really essentially started this hobby. Without Gary Gygax, we wouldn't even have this whole, like, we would probably still have role playing games, but not to as we know them, so to speak. He codified it, and same with Arneson. Without Gygax, we wouldn't have Dungeons and Dragons or AD&D. We wouldn't have the B2 module, the Keep on the Borderlands, which is a personal source of inspiration for me. And even though I've never run it, Morgan's Fort is very similar to it, and is a very good way to have that feel, for what you're looking for. And then, of course, Moldvay, basic, Cook, expert. Without Arneson, you wouldn't have Blackmore. Um, there's just so much, a lot of these guys, you really don't understand until you really think about it, how much we would be missing out on, like, Blackmore and Mistar and all that is, like, so ingrained into our minds as fantastical settings with fantastical adventures that are so classic that, one of these guys didn't exist, we wouldn't have them. Now, um, everything on the back they said is true, and I'm going to bring up my PDF because I want to take it easier on my eyes real quick. So it does say supplementary stuff and things like that, and that is true. If you go on Basic Fantasies website, you will see additional classes, additional races, if that interests you. Some of them I allow at my table, some of them I do not. You'll have the Glane Companion, which is Mr. Gonerman's um, personal house rules and things like that he added for his campaigns. For Glane, you'll have different rulings. Like, there's people that come up rules for milestone leveling uh, instead of the experience based leveling. Like, you can do whatever you wish on that. So character creation, literally, now the introduction, little fun fact, the introductory sequence where it introduces Apocalypse the cleric and Barthol the thief and Morningstar the elf, those are all from the they're based off of the Morgan's Fort Old Island Fortress adventure. So they're in there kind of as a shout out, and we'll get to Morgan's Fort here in a little bit. But so just as an example, in fact, Holden Rathwin, the Baronet of Morgan's Fort, is supposed to be based off of a character that Chris Garman played back in the day. So just as a fun little Easter egg. So it starts off, it introduces new players to what is a role-playing game and what do you need to play. And it's literally like, if you want to know what you need to play, Literally, all you need to play is pencil, paper, and dice. Uh, there are several modules, and of course, Morgan Sport is recommended, and I do recommend Morgan Sport immensely. It tells you what different type of dice you can get, and you can get them either online in this day and age, or you can go to your local game shop if you have one. Uh, Character creation, 3d6 down the line: strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. Personal house rule on my tables: your first character is 3d6 down the line. If they die, your second character is 3d6, but you can allot them how you need to. And I do let people re-roll on hopeless characters like that. Like one guy rolled nothing but fives and sixes. Like, yeah, that's a pretty hopeless character. So I have no problem with that. You have your classic, uh, which by the way, in this game, race is not class. Now, certain races have class restrictions, but you have your classic four races and four classes: dwarf, elf, halfling, and human. And then magic user, cleric, thief, fighter. So dwarves can be clerics, fighters, and thieves. Elves can be clerics, fighters, and magic users, or thieves, but they can also be combination classes, such as magic user fighter and magic user thief. Um, you have halflings who can be clerics, fighters, or thieves. They excel best as thieves, and humans, which can be anything except for the combination classes. You got your standard hit dice table, in addition to how many spell slots your magic using classes get, thief skills, your standard equipment, and beasts of burden and things of that nature. Um, Tells you everything you need to know about the encounter, such as like experience points and how to judge initiative. It's got a nice spell index, so it has two different tables: one for cleric, one for magic user. It gives the list of what they can learn at what level, and then it's got a spell index arranged alphabetically, so you can look that up. And the wording is vague, and I think that's a big strength to it, because that gives the game master um, a chance to make specific rulings on things. That, in my opinion, is the strength of having um, vague wording in your rules. Um, Personal opinion: do not like cantrips at all. I think they demean the point and the importance of actual spells proper. Magic users use daggers, so and I will go to my grave on that one. So um, it talks about time and scale. A good way to measure, and by the way, shout out to Bandits Keep on this one. Uh, Torchlight is a very good way to keep time. So now you can try to keep time as best you can by measuring in rounds. That's totally fine. Um, some of us don't like to get that necessarily crunchy, so we just kind of go by feel. To be honest with you, that's the way I do. It there it can quickly become accounting the board game if you want to get really numbers heavy on things. So I just kind of go by feel. Has it been a while since I ticked off this box? The answer is yes. Has it been a while since I've rolled for a wandering monster encounter? The answer is yes. So if I had to ask myself that, the answer is more likely yes. Um, it talks about also like the chance of finding secret doors and traps for especially for races and classes that aren't normally specialized in that kind of thing. Um, you can you can go by traveling, like it has hex crawling and point crawling in mind. Has rules on retainers, which I did a video on, and reaction and morale and stuff like that. And you will find in the encounter section, you'll find the attack bonuses for your classes based upon level, and you will find the clerics turning the undead table in addition to the saving throw table. So they're nestled in the encounter table. After that, you have your bestiary, uh, which is so heavy with different kinds of monsters. They're all pretty standard affair, um, but that I think is the point. Like you can turn, like you'd be surprised what you can do with just a goblin encounter. You'd be surprised what you can do. Like, okay, I see right here, giant weasel. Give me a little time, and I can come up with something for that. Treasure generation. That's a table I use all the time. Like, I don't. I want to give the players a magical item, or they got lucky on a haul. What do they get? And like I'll come up with that. And sometimes it's cursed, sometimes it's not. Um, your wandering monster tables and everything you need to essentially construct uh your fortresses and things like that, like rulings on that, and how to stock your dungeon and stuff like that. The only thing it doesn't have an appendix A like Gary Gygax's uh, first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons handbook. So it does not have that. You'll have to be a little creative on that front. Um, of course, there's other resources out there that you can use, but I'm going to stick primarily with the source material that's in front of me. Also has optional rules. Like one of the optional rules I use is the saving throw optional rule in the back, where they throw a d20. If it passes their save versus poison slash death rate threshold, then they live, but they're going to bleed out unless they're bandaged up. And I don't think that's too bad. And I want to get to. I mean, I'm going to let me pull that back up. I don't know why I closed that out, but I'm going to get to one other optional rule, and that is gold. We talked about gold not long ago, and I want to talk about it real quick. And that's so in basic and expert, actually in a lot of D&D games from back in the day, gold served another purpose besides just being money, and that was being experience points, right? So, how do I rule gold in my games, right? So, let's let's talk about this real quick because it's a very short section. The game master may also assign experience points for treasure gained at a rate of one gold piece equals one experience point, and I agree with that. This is optional. GMs wishing to advance their players to higher levels more quickly may choose to do this, while those preferring a more leisurely pace should admit it. If experience is awarded for treasure, it should be awarded only for treasure acquired and returned to a place of safety. And I agree with that. They don't get the experience until they get back to town. Alternately, the GM may require treasure to be spent on training in order to count for experience. This is a highly effective way to remove excess treasure from the campaign. And I toyed around with that idea for a bit. It all comes down to personal preference. Do you wish your guys to level up quicker or slower? Personally, I found that, in my opinion, my guys were leveling a little too slow. Um, I think a lot of people prefer 4 sessions being when they level up. So that's what I do. Now, of course, this gets them to like level 2 or 3 quicker, but eventually it's going to take more treasure to get them there. And if they're just slogging around in level 1 dungeons, or if they've already cleared out all the treasure of a dungeon level, then obviously they're going to have to do more. I do not use the 10% bonus experience from humans for that. They only get that with monster experience. They don't get it from treasure. That's the way I personally rule it. So it's all about preference. Um, so now that that's done, You have everything that you need in this game. This is the kind of game that I made a remark once that uh, it's all about. One of my biggest complaints about modern systems is the fact that your success depends on a dice roll, and there's a lot of people that misrepresent me in my other videos saying, "Oh well, if this game does it, like no, you're not listening to me. This rewards player skill over character skill. This rewards critical thinking over mindlessly rolling dice. I love the clickety clacks of dice like everybody else, but not everything requires a dice roll. For example, secret doors. One of my players found a secret door that I had planted, and he wasn't checking for it. He just happened to pull the right torch off of the wall, and it revealed a secret door. That's it. Like you don't have to check for secret doors all the time. You could simply stumble upon it. That's the whole point of adventure. Like you just stumble on things. Um, One of my biggest complaints with modern systems is that most of the adventures are very railroady, uh, where it doesn't even matter whether or not you thought creatively or pass a dice roll, you're still going to get to that point that the adventure wants to take you to anyways. So now that that's said, because this was advertised in the court rules, I got this. This is actually an older version of Morgansport. This is from 2010. There's only been a couple things updated in this, namely the description of a particular NPC who, in this version, is described as fairly dark skinned. So I believe. Let me check because I don't want to misrepresent Mr. Garman. Yeah, she's described as dark skinned, and so if that is a problem for you, there's a newer edition where that doesn't come into play. There's also a particular thing about orc women in here. So I'm going to leave that part out, but some people might not take it the right way, which I think at this point, by the time your players reach that, they're not going to be murder hobos. Like they're going to realize that this is not the game for that. Um, but that's just whatever. So I've got and of course you have several things like adventure module, like adventure anthologies and stuff like that, and different modules. I have several over there, laying over there right now, and they all cost what the print cost is, so not a lot. The biggest one I have is Saga of Giants, which is actually more pages than the core rules. Uh, I have pulled up on my folder here. I have several uh, supplements, add-ons, things like that. I don't use them all, but I've got them. So, in addition to a character sheet template, if my players wanted that, it's all up to them. Um, but let's talk about Morgansport itself. Now, this right here is excellent because, like, the whole point of it is like it kind of it's like B2. If you've ever run B2, if you're one of those old schoolers that ran B2 back in the day, the Keep on the Borderlands. This is essentially this is essentially Basic Fantasies B2. You get baronets, fortress, settlement. Um, you get like 3 dungeons, one of which is pretty deep. I mean, three levels with a lot of rooms. So um, it comes with the Old Island Fortress, the Nameless Dungeon, and the Cave of the Unknown. Um, it it's got a whole bunch. It like the whole point of Morgansport is to have a home base for your players to return to. It's very great for that. My players in my Thursday night group still haven't really thoroughly explored the settlement that much yet, but they've got a lot of it figured out. They've met most of the very important NPCs. They just haven't met them all yet. There's still a few that they've overlooked, and they haven't really utilized the rumor table so much yet. There was one that they discuss that Garnoth, the tavern owner, let slip because of a drink. He's just like, oh, by the way, here's what I heard about the old island fortress. So he let that go, and so now that's something to consider. Um, they took a very, shall we say, creative approach to exploring that dungeon. Um, it is excellent. They haven't even made it to level 2 yet. I mean, floor 2, and that their characters have, with all the gold and stuff that they found, they've hit level 2. Like that, so like that, it's doable with 3 players. Now, one of them hired a retainer once he hit level 2, so less experience, but he just hit level 3, and I think the fighter's level 3, and the magic user's not far behind. So it's fairly, like, it's really good for beginning level players. So with that, if I could recommend anything, um, yeah, definitely, like, you could get by on just this. In fact, the campaign setting I'm working on is only going to utilize this, nothing else. None of the other supplementary materials. It's just going to be this. Now I am using this as inspiration. The same as I do with um, the same as I do with Keep on the Borderlands. But with all that being said, so now there has been my approach to keeping this as a politics free. And again, I bring up a testimony of one of the, because I know this drove the troll mad. So here's the deal: I play with people I'm friends with, and I've met strangers and I played with them, and we foster a friendship from that. So my Monday group is made up of personal friends of mine, and we're all fathers, and we're all working men, and we're all Christians. One of them grew up in a household where Dungeons and Dragons was not allowed. And so Chris Gonerman, your game gave him that experience that he missed out on in his younger days. So I'm going to bring that up, primarily because I think that's an excellent testimony for it, and also because it drives that weirdo leftoid mad. But so with that, this was my second attempt tonight to do this video. Um, I hope that, again, I don't expect this to ever surpass the views of the first video, and um, I'm a little bit disappointed that it took this late, but family stuff happens, so I didn't get to interact with viewers like I did when I was here earlier tonight, but that's all right. I come out for my points. I guess before I close out, I'll just say what I've got planned. So, um, I'll eventually show off what I've got in my toolbox. You know what I mean? Like what kind of stuff I use for my games, um, for my campaign setting. Like obviously I just showed a little bit ago what I have in terms of what I'm working with on my Anglovan campaign. So bring it back out here. Let's bring out Galdeth, which is the city that they'll start with. Um, and of course the exaggerated player character map, which is based on those maps where nothing's proportionate, and like you just get a broad general idea of what's in the area. Um, my wife was a huge fan of the little ghosty deals that I put around the Hill of Spirits, so she was a huge fan of that. She thought it was cute. So I'll make a more fleshed out map that is more accurate to the distance of things. But I thought it was a pretty cool little idea. Um, I am active in the Facebook group and on the Discord for Basic Fantasy. I'm not so active in the forums as much, but I did contribute tonight. So Chris Gonerman uh, started the Dungeon 23 thing where everybody where like every day like you make a new dungeon room. Well, he started off yesterday for the new year, and so it's going to be a community effort. And I actually contributed. I came up with the description for room two. So, like I said earlier tonight, if you go on and you look up the Dungeon 23 on the website and the forums, room two. I'm to praise or blame, love it or hate it. I'm the one who did room two, and of course I try to invite other people to like, hey, you want to help me dress room two? And nobody's bit yet, so as far as I know, but um, Chris Gonerman did room one to start it off, and I rolled some dice and had some orcs, and the room has a secret door in it, and so I came up with an idea for the very basic, but I came up with an idea for uh, a switch for the secret door. So I was just like that. I mean, you know, try to work thematically. So if you go on there and you see Arcane Hunter 89, that's me. Hello. So um, I don't post a lot in there. I need to be more active in what I am, but I don't know. I don't really hardly get on there unless I feel like contributing something. I don't have nothing to contribute yet. I guess what to look forward to. Let me talk about my project real quick before I end it, because like that way everybody knows what I'm working on. So it's going to be a very ambitious thing. Um, so Galdeth is the starting town. It's the biggest city that the players are going to be in. It's very central. Like it's as you could tell, it's like in the middle of the map there. So Galdeth is in the middle of the map, and so there's two smaller villages. You have Korad and Farad, and so Korad is up here, and Farad is right over here. So you have Korad and Farad. So you have a big city and two settlements, two smaller settlements, and so the Hill of Spirits that's over here. That's going to be where the players can go and explore things like, excuse me, things like that. It's going to have a theme to it. Going to be more of a planned out dungeon. Tower of Anthem. Uh, put this filler over here. It's in the forest. Little wizard head over here. Put some magical stars around it. It's going to be a wizard's tower. Now, whether it's abandoned or not, I haven't figured that out yet. So, um, here is the Temple of Blight. This is your standard chaotic evil religion cult temple. Ruins of Arca. That's going to be your lost civilization kind of thing. Forgotten Castle Hothen. That's going to be a castle up in the mountains. Uh, don't know what's going to come there yet. We're currently working on ideas, and this is Sunken Carral, which is a sunken city at the bottom of Lake Carral. Um, haven't decided what I'm putting there yet, but it's going to be interesting to see how the players get there. You know what I mean? Because it's at the bottom of a lake. So um, I have some ideas. Oh yeah, and of course, the main centerpiece is going to be this big dungeon that I'm going to put in there, the Tomb of the Forlorn, and I don't know how many rooms yet. I don't know how big this place is going to be yet. I'm planning on 10 floors, 10 levels at least. I'm planning on making this a big place. Um, so this is probably going to take me a while. Um, I'm going to eventually like of course I could always like keep adding on to the Tomb of the Forlorn as the players go. I'm going to get the other stuff fleshed out and then begin play on it. And then once I know how everything is, um, I'll put it up. I do plan on putting in some of you guys that have been viewing me from the beginning know of my Mansion of the Forsaken Necromancer, and I ran that with my first Morgan's Fort group. I am going to put that in here. I don't know where, but I'm going to put it in here. So that's going to be there. And this is the parish of Angloven. Um, it is going to be mostly human centric. Originally, I was going to have like dwarves were going to take an attack bonus penalty in the sunlight, and elves would get sick and all that. And it started to become, you know, a little bit too unwieldy. I was like, man, alive, this just like I'm getting too sucked into the construction of rules when I need to be working on construction of a thing, like construction of dungeons and adventures. So I'm thinking about leaving out those particular mechanics, but leaving it a human centric campaign. So I guess now that that's done and over with, um, thank you guys. Looking forward to the new year and what it brings. Um, those of you that have been watching me live right now, I thank you for joining me. Um, so hopefully this video, of course, once it finishes processing, blah blah blah, it'll be up for people coming after the fact to view. So as all, my next video I plan on doing, I will probably tackle the Satanic Panic. That's been one I wanted to talk about for a bit because I just find it such a fascinating part of the hobby's history. I know some people probably don't view it that way, but as always, take care. God bless, guys. See you on the other side.